Welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's Adventures of the Wellness Homesteader. Today is going to be a really fun video that I hope you will enjoy. It kind of has Throwback Thursday vibes. I may not have a Throwback Thursday video this week in lieu of doing this, but yeah, I know I'm sitting in a chair. No, I'm not going to lecture you. We are actually going to be doing some things, but first, you all, I want to share with you 5 retro dishes that we need to bring back. I hope you'll stay tuned. Retro foods that used to be popular are no longer in vogue today. I may actually do a part 2 to this because I had to choose from many different foods and dishes that we used to eat when I was a kid growing up that are totally out of favor now. But I just picked kind of a top 5 here. So let's start with Ambrosia salad. Now, y'all, I want to tell you a little story. Not cutting to my mom. My mom was a fabulous cook, but she definitely fell into the mid-century phase of using canned and convenience foods because that was all the rage and the vogue. We were never allowed to have TV dinners, though. Yeah, I don't know why. My mom thought they were unhealthy. Not that anything else we ate wasn't unhealthy, let me tell you. So I'm going to talk about Ambrosia salad, but my mom called it Heavenly Delight. And if y'all are of that certain age, do you remember Dream Whip? It was made by Jell-O. It was envelopes that you mixed a liquid with, I believe water, but don't hold me to that. And it made like a fake whipped cream that tasted very chemical. And when my mom, and it was probably a financial thing, when my mom did not have anything to really make desserts out of, she would make this thing called Heavenly Delight. And it was literally Dream Whip and canned fruit cocktail that was mushy and awful. And it was kind of modeled after Ambrosia salad. So let me tell you a little bit about Ambrosia salad. It was first around in the 1800s, and it only used 3 ingredients, which really surprised me. Oranges, coconut, which if y'all have been a long-term subscriber, you know I hate coconut, and sugar. They layered it. It started on like the Midwest, East Coast area, and it initially appealed as exotic because oranges and coconuts were very expensive and only the wealthy could afford it. In the following decades, the recipe included added fruits like pineapple, banana, and included whipped cream. Cue my mother. But it was Dream Whip. At the turn of the century, a marketing campaign introduced Marshmallow Whip. Now, y'all, I love me some Marshmallow Whip as the dressing of choice. So, as you can imagine, canned fruits with lowered nutrition and Marshmallow Whip high in sugar and Lord knows what else. Probably wasn't the healthiest thing, but I bet it was super yummy. By the 1930s, Ambrosia salad was deemed a traditional holiday dish. Isn't that funny? And the reason for this is because Florida oranges typically hit the grocery stores in December, and oranges were like a main ingredient all along the way. I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble here. Hold on. Y'all, are you ever going along and you're like, wait a minute? What did that abbreviation mean? I am the queen of abbreviations, some of which are made up out of my head. So, with canned fruit becoming a staple after both world wars, Ambrosia reached its recognition in the retro form of canned pineapple, maraschino, mandarin, oranges. So whether it's a salad or a dessert, it does remain a southern dish because that's really the only region, according to the research I did, that still embraces ambrosia salad. So y'all know I have all the books. I had so much fun doing the research for this, but y'all, I will tell you, it took me a long time. So this is a Better Homes and Gardens dessert cookbook, came from 1960, and I'm like, surely they have ambrosia salad. Well, yes, they do. So here is the picture, and as you see, it has grapes, it has maraschino cherries, it has bananas, and it has, of course, oranges and coconut. The little ditty beneath it says, Ambrosia, party pretty. Here's the perfect light dessert after a hearty feast. The fruit combination is wonderful. I wonder who wrote all this. Pineapple chunks, orange sections, banana slices, grapes, and maraschino cherries. So I thought that was really neat. And if I decide to make true ambrosia salad without the coconut, I have a recipe for it. So what is the second retro food that we need to bring back? So the second food is, drum roll, tuna casserole. So there was a post-war boom, as I've mentioned earlier, of canned foods in the 1950s. And it started the quick and easy, straight from the pantry boom, if you will. And my mom embraced that quick and easy, straight from the pantry. Campbell's describes this dish, because it contained a Campbell's product, as the original dump and bake. And I don't know about you all, but when I'm talking about my food, I don't want to talk about dump. It just doesn't seem like that fits with food. So if you've never had a tuna casserole, it's canned tuna, cream of mushroom soup, noodles, peas, and like a breadcrumb topping. It is still around. There are still people that do make tuna casserole. I personally, y'all, am not a lover of tuna. I have to really be in the mood. And I was like, I wonder why that kind of fell out of popularity, because pasta, cheap. Tuna has gotten more expensive, but still it's not as expensive as a pound of ground beef, and it stretches and fills bellies. So listen to these factors of why tuna casserole is not so popular. I could not believe this. Millennials, many millennials, let me say it that way, don't own can openers. Wait, what? Like, how do you get into stuff? And y'all, I have a lot of home canned food and fresh food, but I still have things that I can't grow. I can't grow pineapple, right? Well, I guess I could buy a fresh one, but how do you not have a can opener, right? Like, I have an electric one and like a hand crank one. This information came to the VP of Marketing and Innovation at Starkist Tuna, and that is how tuna in pouches was created, because millennials don't have can openers. If you're a millennial, drop me a comment below, because I'm telling you, well, my kid's not a millennial, I guess, right? He was born in 85, but do y'all have can openers like I think that's a stretch. The second reason, and it's a reason why I'm super careful, is the high mercury level in tuna. Now, this primarily came around in the 1970s, but it has persisted as a problem. And y'all, here's a little known fact. I'm so full of useless information. Chickens supposedly love tuna. I have not fed my chickens tuna because I'm concerned about mercury levels. And it does say that you shouldn't serve tuna to your chickens more than once every 2 weeks. So I thought, I'm not even gonna take the chance. They can eat all of my garden produce, like, they ate every one of those turnip greens, y'all, and there were a lot of them. They ate all the radish tops, etc., etc. The third reason, and have y'all seen a can of tuna that says dolphin safe? Well, tuna nets often would catch dolphins, and that was very offensive to people because dolphins were killed in the pursuit of getting tuna. So now they are using a different net to catch less dolphins. And then the final reason is a cultural preference to fresher ingredients. I think a tuna casserole in the winter would be really good. That was not something I had when we were growing up. Tuna just was not something that my mother enjoyed. She's not a fish eater, so we didn't really have it. But I'm like, surely in the Better Homes and Gardens Casserole Cookbook, I can find a tuna casserole. And why, yes, indeed I did. So this is actually a 1968, and I apologize ahead of time because these pictures are black and white. But these are some takes on tuna casserole. And the one on the left is a tuna vegetable pie. And it says, cans of tuna on the emergency shelf are one of the best helps a busy homemaker can have. Tuna vegetable pie combines vegetables and pastry with tuna. I was trying to see here. Yeah, it's using a pie crust mix. The second one that looks like a pie, it's a pie without pastry. That's what rice and tuna pie is. The shell is a flavorful herbed rice mixture that is pressed into a lightly buttered pie plate. So I'm showing you these because these are the ones that actually had pictures, albeit black and white. But there is like a traditional noodle canned cream soup recipe in here as well. So what is the third retro food item we need to bring back? I hope you'll stay tuned. So the third item is fondue. So y'all, at the very end, I will leave an iCard with a link to my Throwback Thursdays because I think I'm going to class this as a Throwback Thursday video. And I do have a fondue pot. I'm thinking mine's from the 70s because it's like orange, but I made a cheese fondue that was fabulous. And I love fondue because of the social aspect of it, as long as they don't double dip. Just saying. And I had my girlfriend over and we ate cheese fondue and had the best visit. So fondue started, y'all, this is a hilarious story. I love this story. It started as an attempt by a cheese cartel known as the Swiss Cheese Union to market Swiss cheese out of their country. So I'm like, a cartel, like, is it like a drug cartel, but it's a cheese cartel? And did they wear like cheesehead hats, you know, and were they like thugs? I just thought that was hilarious. I've never heard of a cheese cartel. And of course it was in Switzerland. By the 1930s, with aggressive targeting, advertising, fondue elevated it to elite status as the Swiss national dish. That is hard to say. And it reached similar popularity in the U.S. a few decades later. Now, I will say, with the advent of some of the fondue type stuff where you're like cooking your own meat and vegetables, you know, restaurants have that. It is still popular. It's just a little bit different. It had a brief resurgence in the 90s, and it is still associated with the disco decade because of the communal eating aspect, which was really big. I love food history in the disco decade. I might have been really into the disco decade. Y'all, I had 80s hair. I love to dance. We went to this place, and if y'all are local, you'll remember, called the Dixie Electric Company. When I was in college, we went every weekend, and they had like the elevated places where if you were a good dancer, you got invited to go up and dance. I've been on those a few times. All right, back to fondue. Chocolate fondue became a mid-century sensation. And y'all, chocolate fountains are super popular. Well, they were super popular. I think it's kind of died down a little bit with healthier eating. But people love chocolate. I don't, but it will, I think, always be popular. I will tell you that in my research, I found out that the Swiss Cheese Union has long been disbanded. So I'm glad there is no more cheese cartel with the cheeseheads, right? But it's still the Swiss national dish. So this book is actually from the 1970s. And for me, in my growing up, that's where I remember it being most popular. We never had cheese fondue, but I wanted to show you this delicious looking picture, and it's entitled Dipping into the Cheese Pot. A crunchy morsel of French bread is liberally swirled in classic cheese fondue. Glasses of chilled white wine make an excellent accompaniment beverage for this sophisticated cheese wine dish. And it does have alcohol in this particular recipe. I didn't put alcohol in mine because I don't drink. All right, moving along. Y'all may be a little skeeved out by this, but I want to tell you, I have had this in its absolutely delicious, so don't knock it until you try it. What is it? Stay tuned to find out. So, through my lifetime, I have had the privilege of doing a lot of out of country travel, and I've kind of eaten my way through North and South America and all the islands in between. But the dish that is retro, that is no longer in vogue, is turtle soup. Now, before you all go, ugh, let me tell you a little bit about it. So, turtle soup actually has English origins, but it quickly became a popular dish in the American colonies. So, we're talking back in the 1800s. It was deemed as a luxury because the price of turtle meat was quite high. It was largely imported from the West Indies. So, what happened was the popularity of turtle soup really caused the turtles to be at risk of extinction, not distinction, although they were probably distinct. It left mainstream eating because there wasn't enough turtles to go around. Where are all the turtles, right? It was popular largely due to the wide variety of flavors that different parts of the turtle have. So it can taste like veal, beef, pork, and goat. And I fully admit I've never had goat, so I can't speak to that. So what was the solution to the endangered turtles and the cost? Mock turtle soup. And y'all may remember, if you're old enough, hearing about Campbell's and Heinz producing canned varieties of mock turtle soup, and it was eventually discontinued. It just lost popularity. I think people were maybe offended that they were using poor little turtles or skeeved out by the thought of eating turtles. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience as well. So what they ended up doing is they made the mock turtle soup by using a calf's head. The problem with that is it was very time consuming to, let's just say, harvest that meat for the mock turtle soup. It is still today enjoyed as a delicacy in China, in Southeast Asia, and I believe Singapore. I have had real turtle soup in Spanish Wells, which is a small island, Eleuthera, which is also a small island in the East Caribbean, and also in Barbados. So what does turtle soup taste like? It is absolutely delicious. It has a vegetable type broth. The meat just puts me in mind of a pork chop, but more tender. So it is actually very good. Now, I had to do some heavy duty searching, y'all, to find a recipe for mock turtle soup, or for turtle soup. So if you all remember in this poor book, this is Mary Margaret McBride's Encyclopedia of Cooking. It is from 1959. And I don't have a picture, and because the book is kind of delicate, I'm going to just read it to you. It calls for 1.5 cups of turtle meat, 2 quarts of beef stock, a bay leaf, lemon juice, 1 clove of mace, some Tabasco salt and pepper, sherry wine, and 2 hard-cooked egg whites chopped. The turtle soup that I've had pieces of vegetable in it, like mirepoix, like the celery, carrots, and onions. But this is quite interesting. I was very pleased that I actually found a recipe. Now, number 5, drum roll please. This is a dish we're going to be making today, and I'll explain why. What is it? Hold that thought. So today, if you didn't get the gist of it from my shirt, I wish I had pineapple earrings as well. We are going to make pineapple upside down cake. Guys, I am shocked, and this is a foodie article that my son actually sent me because he's a big foodie too, that pineapple upside down cake is out of vogue. But let me tell you what, I went through so many cookbooks trying to find a picture and recipe of pineapple upside down cake, and it really is not listed very much in the 50s, 60s, and 70s books that I have. But let me tell you something. I grew up on pineapple upside down cake. And I'm going to share the recipe that I'm going to use and the history behind it shortly. But pineapple upside down cake first surfaced in the 1920s, but it was considered a luxury because pineapple was a tropical fruit. It had to be either imported or, maybe it was grown in Florida. But it only reached mainstream status in the 20th century because of Jim Dole's Hawaiian Pineapple Company. So that is the founder of Dole Pineapple. They mass-produced canned pineapple, so there was no longer the need to ship fresh pineapples, and it really increased access to the tropical fruit. So to increase sales, this is so cool, Dole sponsored a recipe contest, and those are super popular in the 50s and 60s. Y'all, I couldn't find the exact date, but I do know who the winner was, and it was Mrs. Robert Davis. And I always laugh because back in the day, everyone was Mrs. fill in your husband's name and your last name, rather than, Mrs. Kym Clark, for example. She won because of her pineapple upside down cake. So that's how it got very popular, because then, of course, they published the recipe and there was a lot of publicity. It did experience a surge mid-century due to, that call for convenience and using canned foods. And that brought a more exotic and more perceived to be elegant luxury item to housewives across the world. So, like I said, I had a little bit of trouble finding a picture and a recipe for pineapple upside down cake. I have my own recipe. My apologies, y'all. When the kiddo calls, you answer, right? So back to pineapple upside down cake. So this is the same Mary Margaret McBride 1959 book. So there's a picture of pineapple upside down cake, very festively decorated. And it doesn't say what the flowers are around it, but they have a whole bunch of variations: apricot, peach, coconut butterscotch, blah, pineapple spice, cranberry, or blueberry. So really you can use the recipe that I'm about to share with any fruit, but it's a very special recipe to me. So let's get in the kitchen. It won't take very long. I know this video is a little bit longer, and we're gonna get to making my mom's famous pineapple upside down cake. So today, y'all, I'm washing my hands really well. The skies are still hazy, and we're still getting a lot of smoke again from the Canadian fires. So I hope your respiratory system is doing okay with all this. It's supposed to be 81 today. I have been, in an effort to be frugal, not using my central air. I do have an air conditioner, y'all excuse my hand, upstairs in the bedroom that I turn on, but I may have to break down and do some AC today because it's quite humid. We are still dry and still a little slight in our precipitation. We have about a 40% chance tomorrow that it's going to rain. I pray that it does, but I have been watering every day. So when I cleaned out my mom's house in the barn, I found this book, and I fully disinfected it, y'all. It is stained. It has a speedomatic index with many features. And I have some really precious recipes. My mom had this book before she was ever married. And if I've never shared this, my mom was married at 15. My dad was 18. They got married because my dad was drafted into the Army. It wasn't because they had to get married, but I have things like Mom's homemade buttermilk biscuits. One of my favorites is some of the no-cook marshmallow frosting. And there's a hilarious one in here that is just for cake. No tack, just cake, right? This has been used so much, y'all. So this is from the 40s and 50s, that it actually had fallen out when I received it. And look at all the food on it. That always makes me happy. So this is my mom's upside down cake recipe. I'm going to read the ingredients to you. 3 tablespoons of butter, 3/4 cup of brown sugar, halves of apricots, pineapple, or peaches. We're going to do pineapple. 1/4 cup of butter, 2 eggs, 1 1/4 cup flour, 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 cup of white sugar, 1/2 cup of fruit juice, from the canned fruit, 1/4 teaspoon of soda. It's really like it's all scratched through, guys. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Melt the butter and brown sugar in a skillet, place in the fruit, cream butter and sugar, add well-beaten eggs, stir in fruit juice alternately with flour, sifted with baking powder and salt, add vanilla. I don't even think the vanilla was on here. Pour over the skillet with the fruit and the brown sugar mixture and bake in the oven for 45 minutes. Y'all, it won't take 45 minutes. But my mom always did it in a cast iron skillet. I've watched my mom do this enough. You'd think I'd have it memorized, but I don't. So, this is how my mom did it. Instead of the 3 tablespoons of butter, she simply halved the stick of butter, and I have softened this, y'all. And she put it in the skillet, and then she put it in the oven to melt. And then once it was getting melted, she would add the sugar. I'm going to mix everything together, y'all. I'll just show you little bits and pieces so it won't get too long. But I will show you the final product. This is my son's favorite cake. And my son, bless his heart, his dad's mom has had to move into a facility. I swear, it's just everywhere around me because all the family's getting so old. So he's coming down for a Father's Day visit. Happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. And but he's stopping here first, so I want to have some cake for him. I hope you'll stay tuned. Y'all know I have to brag on my ladies. There's nothing like getting 2 fresh from the chicken butt eggs. And they are free-ranging 100% of the daylight until like maybe 4 o'clock in the evening, getting all the grass, the bugs, the worms, the garden, organic produce tops and such. They are the best eggs ever. So our butter has melted. I'm gonna finish creaming the eggs into the butter and sugar, and then I'll give you a quick glimpse as to how to layer the bottom of the pan. All right, so I've arranged, well, first let me back up. After I melted the butter, I put the brown sugar on, put it back in the oven. I think that creates a better crispy, crunchy deliciousness on the top. Inside each pineapple ring, I have placed a strawberry with the bumpy side up. We'll see if it stays that way. Now what you want to do is evenly, and y'all, this isn't a huge amount of batter. So you want to try to pour it as evenly as you can because it's hard to spread around without dragging some of the brown sugar and such in. And I will also tell you a little trick. If your brown sugar seems a bit dry, like there isn't enough butter, and I would definitely recommend using the 4 tablespoons, not the 3. One thing that you can do is put a little bit of the pineapple juice from the can on the brown sugar. That just adds to the deliciousness. I did do that. I remember my mom doing that. So, you can't even really see, but I mean, y'all know how to do this. I'm not showing you anything that's rocket science. But I think just some of these little tips, and having the skillet hot, so putting it in the oven to melt your butter rather than like microwaving your butter, really does, I think, make a difference in the end taste. Okay, where did my mitt go? So I have a very efficient oven. Miss Cindy never disappoints. So into the center of the oven, I am going to check it at 30. It probably won't be done, but hey, we can admire the beauty, right? I will bring you back when it's all finished, talk about how you get it out of the pan, and we'll give it a taste test, even though my so I don't have to eat from a cupcake tomorrow. All right, stay tuned. You all, this took 40 minutes. It smells so amazing. I cannot tell you how amazing it smells. Really, really great. Lots of vanilla, cakey, sugary goodness. So what are the next steps? You want to leave it in the pan for 5 minutes. Then we are going to invert it onto a plate. I'm actually going to set it over here on my cooling rack for the 5-minute period. And then I'll just place the plate on top with hot mitts. I'll turn the whole thing over. And then I'll bring you back to show you what it looks like. And we will do a taste test once it's cooled a little bit. All right, y'all. Here is our beautiful pineapple upside down cake. Now you'll notice it isn't a super thick cake, and this is how I remember my mother making it, so it may be, you know, the amount of batter and such that you use. The cast iron skillet was so heavy it broke my plastic plate. But let's give this a taste, because it has been teasing me forever. And by the way, y'all, if you're wondering, oh, how do you get all that sticky goo out of your cast iron plate? Sorry to ya. Super simple. As soon as you get your cake out, put some hot water in the skillet. And I had cooked something so the burner was warm. And just let it hang out. And, I mean, it just washed clean like it was non-stick, so no problem there. All right, y'all. That's what it looks like on the inside. In fact, let me just pick it up. It's easier. So it's a fairly dense cake, and it does have all this syrup. I can't wait to taste this. So let me get a piece cut here. You gotta have a bite of pineapple in every bite. In every bite. That's what I say. Goodness, what's the matter with me? All right. There's what it looks like. This is a big bite, but let me take a taste. Oh my word, y'all. Wow, does that bring back memories? I thought I did not have my mother's pineapple upside down cake recipe, and I was so overjoyed to find this. Wow, does that bring back memories? It's sugary, it's buttery, it's actually quite rich. The pineapple adds like a nice, I don't know if I'd call it freshness, but a nice, less sweet taste to it. The syrup, oh my word. Well, I hope you'll give this very simple recipe a try. Buy yourself a can of pineapple. All the other ingredients are pretty much available on your pantry shelf for most people. No special flour or anything required. I hope you've enjoyed this little retro trip down memory lane and some retro dishes that I think some we should bring back. Y'all may not be a real fan of the turtle soup, but I'm telling you it is delicious, and you could always do mock turtle soup, right? Drop me a comment below of those 5. Which is the one you would most like to see come back mainstream and be available in restaurants? I plan to see you all, pardon me, goodness, cake crumb caught in my throat, on Thursday. This is Sunday, so I'm like right up against the taping schedule this week. But y'all, I'm just gonna have to see how things go with my mom. My mom has had an incredibly bad week, and you know, the decline is real and the end is inevitable. I just don't know when the Lord will choose to take her home. So in the meantime, I'm going to carry on as long as I'm available to do these videos. I thoroughly enjoy it. And I want to say a word. Y'all, I am so bad about forgetting my P.O. box. And I went to my P.O. box yesterday, and I don't want to embarrass anybody, and this is not your YouTube name, but thank you, Michelle, for the wonderful card. The other people, I had your email and I was able to contact you to thank you personally for my cards and for my mom's cards. I greatly appreciate it. Yesterday, I needed the encouragement. You know, we all have days like that. So I love each and every one of you. I pray that you are well and safe and happy. I will see you all a little later this week, Lord willing. But until then, be healthy, be well, be blessed. Take care.